So, do people nowadays, speaking of lying, do they lie more? The book says, see to it then that you put an end to lying. Let everyone speak the truth to his neighbor, for we are all members of one another. Lying, that's not a good thing. And I think people nowadays, they lie more to steal more. And as far as stealing and a crime, a lot of people have the idea if you don't get caught, then it's not considered a crime. If you can get away with it, why not? You know, the bank or the store or the individual that you might be stealing from, they can afford the loss. It's not a big deal. Now, is that true for a lot of people? Is this how people think more and more, I wonder? Now, the commandments haven't changed. You know that. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, which means no lying. And I hate liars. I'd rather have an honest, constructive criticism than a dishonest compliment. And you women know what I'm talking about with the lying. When somebody asks you, a friend asks you, how do I look in this dress? And you say, oh, great, Tammy, great, Mary. And she's bulging out of her dress in all kinds of places, and not the good bulges, the irregular bulges. And you say, great, oh, you look good. No, you don't. Tell her nicely. You can say anything as long as you maintain a respect, as long as you don't have a motive of anger or getting to somebody and breaking them down. If that's not your motive, be honest with the person. You could stand to lose a couple pounds here and there. Wear a looser dress. That would probably work. And God hates liars too. The book says, lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who are truthful are his delight. Now, why does God say it's an abomination? Because, you know, when he says abomination, you can't get any worse than that. Why does he say that? Because obviously, if lying becomes the norm, then what good is the truth? It becomes a worthless commodity. We will no longer need the truth. Just make it up. All you need to do is then improve on your skills of deception. You can create any reality you want, right? And then you convince others that it's real. And that is, if you're persuasive enough, you know, why not? Now, the thieves that traffic in lying and stealing are presently, they're having a field day out there with our phones and computers. Do you know that? Do you know this stuff's going on? The thieves, they no longer break into houses. Nah, that's old school. That's messy. Too much trouble with that and too much chance. That's old school. Like a telephone on the wall. Old school. Remember you used to dial? Especially when you were in a hurry. It was such a pain in the butt. The 9 and the 0. It took so long to get around when you dialed. It took so long dialing, especially when you're calling for a date with a really good-looking girl. You know, by the time you get through, you end up in 6th in the line. You're put on her waiting list. You become a last option. You got to get in there quick. The phones nowadays, nowadays is an advantage. It's doot, 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 doot. You're in. Remember those days, board guy? Now, in the 2000s, it's all about computer scams on the internet because they're more clean, they're quicker, and it's easier to get away with. You know, the computer hackers, what they do is they create a problem and then they pretend to fix it. And these crooks, man, they make a lot of money. 5-10 grand a day. Probably no benefits with that, though. But then who needs benefits when you're pulling in that kind of money? But beware young thief, because the book says, he who makes a fortune by a lying tongue is chasing a bubble over deadly snares. It's not going to last forever. The consequences and punishments will eventually knock on your door. This scam and this computer thing, that happened to me not too long ago. My computer froze up, and there was a huge big warning on the screen. All kinds of warning and flashing lights and danger, danger, danger. You've been hacked. You got to call this number. It's urgent that you call immediately. And whatever you do, don't turn off your computer, because essentially what they tell you, if you turn it off, it's going to blow up. And the only reason they tell you not to turn it off is because if you turn it off and then restart, the scam goes away. It just goes away. It's that easy. And then they proceed to get you to buy these Google Play cards. Yeah, this scam's going on, baby. You need to be aware. Google Play cards, they tell you to go buy them and then come back. And these Google Play, I never heard of these things. Like ear hair razors. I never knew they were on the market. They're long, streamlined, thin razors. They burrow into your ear. They clean out that big bush of obnoxious hair in your ears as you get older. I guess it's better than plucking the hairs like you women do. How can you do that? Plucking your eyebrows one by one. Doot, doot, doot. That hurts. Your eyes water. So I got ripped off for $1,500. Like I can afford that. $1,500. And when it comes down to it, it was my fault because I was impatient. I was in a rush and I got reckless. I didn't stop and think. I ignored all the red flags that popped up. So because I was in this rush and I didn't want to call anybody, which I should have, to ask for advice, I decided to trust this guy on the other end of the line. And the funny thing is, as it was going on, I even asked him, how do I know you're not ripping me off? How do I know you're not hacking me right now and lying to me? I said that at least twice, but I kept going. Why? Because the guy sweet-talked me. He was so nice and polite, very professional. He called me sir. He apologized for this inconvenience. And he also had an Indian voice. Yeah, he had an Indian voice, so I profiled him. To my chagrin, I thought he was an honest computer whiz because he had that Indian voice talking across the seas. Yeah, I was such a fool. Oh, did I feel like a fool. But I got ripped off. And you need to hear this because you don't want to be next. Now, the worst thing about this internet scamming that's going on, the crooks, they don't see themselves as crooks. They don't. They see it just as another job, and they can work from home, and they're ripping you off for every penny possible. Penny possible. 2 P's in a row. I'm spitting on the mic as I say that. That's not sanitary. I need a wipe, like a baby wipe. Board guy, baby wipe. All right, hey, it's the flu season, right? But anyway, these crooks, they don't care. But God cares. The book says, truthful lips endure forever, the lying tongue for only a moment. So the computer crooks, they think they're getting away with it. They feel that they're anonymous. They're anonymous thieves, never to be seen or caught. Like an anonymous suggestion box at work for your boss. Do they still have them? You remember them? You write something down on a little piece of paper and you slip it into a box with a slit in it. And you might ask, well, maybe we need a little bit more pencils in the office or some more time for lunch, perhaps. And then somebody writes down a recommendation. Just stick it where the sun don't shine. I wonder how that went over with the boss. Wonder if Board Guy ever got a suggestion like that. Not that he would deserve it. Yeah. So maybe these thieves, as I think about it, maybe they are actually anonymous to us because we don't know who they are, and then they disappear. You try to call them back and the line's disconnected. You're trapped. You were suckered. But they're not anonymous to God. See, as we know, God sees all. And these thieves, they might be laughing now, but they're going to be crying later, no doubt. So as a human race, we must continue to value honesty and truth. Do we? Do we care? People nowadays, they don't seem too concerned about it. They say, oh, well, we'll just work around that. Forget about it. Honesty and truth, that's just for suckers. All I see is the money, baby. The money. And the thieves, they take pride in their deceptive schemes. The ability to lie and pull it off. And for what? What's their payoff? More money. More money, more money, and more money. And that's the opposite incentive that the Bible gives in the Bible message. The book says, better a poor man who walks in his integrity than he who is crooked in his ways and rich. Now, if you would tell a crook that, they would just laugh in your face. They would. They would point out, oh, better a poor man who walks in his integrity. Yeah, he's walking because he can't afford a car. I got 3. That's all they would say, because they don't care, the thieves and the crooks out there. They got no concept of right or wrong. Or maybe they do. It's just different than our concept of right and wrong. And if they're both secular, then they have equal value. You can't say one's better than the other unless, of course, you have a code to live by and you honor it. Like God's code, the Bible. That's the only thing that separates one concept of right and wrong from another. Now, my friend, he also got ripped off for $1,000 with these Google Play cards. The crook actually sent him an email, though. He was a little bit different. He pretended to be his boss. And he told him, look, get these cards and send the codes to some address that he gave him. And he did it. And later on, this guy saw his boss and he said, hey, I took care of those Google Play cards. I guess he bought 10 of them for $100 each. And then his boss said, what are you talking about? I didn't send you any email. And of course, it was a big ripoff once again. Now, actually, if my friend was a bad employee like I used to be, then none of this would have happened. I would have said, I didn't see the email. Maybe the email got caught in spam. Something like that. Not to be bothered. But he was a good employee. He did the job. He did it quickly. And he got ripped off. And this stuff goes on all the time. Usually on unsuspecting old kooks like myself. Yeah, we're easy prey. And we're not computer savvy. And I'm sure half my audience might be like that. So you got to beware, man. And this crook behavior, it's a direct result of people following self-centered human nature once again. Nothing but selfishness and disrespect. What's in it for me, and me? Putting themselves first no matter what. Under any circumstances, even if it's at your expense. They don't care. Just don't care. The book says, everybody is busy seeking his own interests rather than those of Christ Jesus. You know, and this is not going to stop. It's getting worse and worse. Like that wart on your hand. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Or your nose, for that matter, if you're getting older. Well, you used to have a small, medium-sized nose. Now you got like this big schnoz. Evidently, the tip of your nose especially is cartilage, and that keeps growing. And it kind of bulges and hangs a little bit like the Wicked Witch of the West. You guys know what I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah, it happens. Another benefit of getting older. Now, these crooks, I know nothing about them. No, I don't. But I do know one thing. they're not Christian. And they're not following God's rules and regulations. I can guarantee that. These crooks, they're more likely not to be Christians than Eskimos are likely to eat fish. The Eskimos. You got to love the Eskimo man. That was a bit of a generalization. They all eat fish. Could that be construed as racism, perhaps? Was that a racist comment? Before I know it, there'll be protesters of the show. They'll throw me off the air. They'll boycott my sponsors. Is that what's going to happen from this Eskimo comment? It could. You never know in this day and age. Well, if you think that, you just got to knock it off already. Let it go. It's ridiculous. The book says, a truthful witness does not lie, but a false witness utters lies. Another ripoff story is that there are these second and third party internet sites out there, and they sell tickets to various events. And normally you buy a $20 ticket. The fee might be $1.50, $2.50, something like that. But these sites, what they do is they tack on an extra $80 for the fees. And they never tell you, or it's in the small print somewhere. And then you don't realize it until you see your credit card statement, and then by that time it's too late. Man, always something. It's like somebody's always watching you, trying to stick it to you. Whatever it takes to get your money, by hook or by crook, they got to get it. Crazy.